Hello and a very warm welcome to this exhilarating episode of Women in the Making. Beyoncé said, own your success and don't apologize for it. Embrace and use it as a platform to empower others. My guest today shares her inspiring journey of being an entrepreneur, model, and an advocate of women's empowerment. From her multicultural upbringing to her bold dream and overcoming obstacles, she finds purpose, passion, and the power to ignite your potential. Please welcome the very charming Kristina KOVALEVICH. Kristina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Nia. This is absolutely amazing, the whole setup. I love it.
Thank you. We have heard remarkable stuff about your journey. Can you take us back to where it all began?
Absolutely. So I was born in this small country in Eastern Europe called Latvia. My parents are both from Belarus. And so at a young age, we immigrated back to Belarus. And then from there, we had this golden ticket where we had an opportunity as a family to come to America. So at the age of 5, starting kindergarten, learning 2 languages at once. I love to kind of look back, and my mother shared with me that I started speaking a little bit later as a kid, and so ironically, I was really shy. I was really shy and quiet, but I was fast. I had a lot of speed within me, and people were like, you're kind of crazy to raise your kid in 2 worlds at once, having her learn 2 languages at once. So my, first half of the day, so to speak, was in a public school. I was around a lot of American kids, yes. Right? American speaking. Obviously, in Seattle, we're very diverse, so there was a lot of different cultures and backgrounds. But coming home, I came to a very traditional, cultural, Russian-speaking home, and that was a challenge. That was a challenge. To me, that was my norm. But looking back now as an adult, that was very much not a normal upbringing for the rest of the world. It brought me to where I am today. It brought me here. It's the fact that I don't have a normal background, and it shaped me into the woman I am today.
I love that, because I feel just speaking 2 languages in a country where English is the primary language, it comes with wonderful blessings. And
Absolutely.
I have been trying to incorporate that amongst my kids, but I'm the kind of mom who do not like to pressurize my kids into something, especially a language. But I wish I would have. And right now they prefer speaking in English more than Hindi, but they understand Hindi quite a lot.
Well, so I'm going to share a story. We kind of got punished in our household if we were to speak English. So, obviously among ourselves, because our parents were learning the language when they arrived to the country. So there was 5 of us, 5 kids, and we would talk in English. And there came a moment where our parents said, enough is enough. For every English word you say, you're going to have to go do a chore. So I ended up washing the most dishes in the household. I'm like deadly sure that I mostly did all the washing. I was a bit of a rebel.
You still have pretty hands.
It's the manicure, it works.
So were there any challenges while growing up? I know you lived in a big family. You were 5 kids.
Yes.
Tell us something that you might have experienced, within your siblings or with your parents that really, is a part of your life.
Ooh, I guess I'll paint a picture. And I'm sure a lot of immigrant kids can relate to this. You're literally living in 2 worlds at the same time. And so when you're at school, you're told one thing, and you're, I guess for lack of a better word, you're imposed the American culture. And when you come home, your parents want you to embrace your cultural roots. They want you to never forget where you come from. They don't want you to forget the language. They don't want to forget, in our family, the fact that in my heritage, we survived World War II. They don't want you to forget that, it was rough. They overcame a lot of their challenges and adversities. And so you kind of just want to be a kid who's outside and wants to have fun. And so sometimes you're trying to share that with your parents and with your grandparents, but they're actually wanting to tell you that that is not quite the reality of the world.
True.
And that the rest of the world, they are overcoming challenges and adversities, and they have humble beginnings, and they're lucky to have water and light and shelter. You know, I'm lucky that my parents kind of taught me to have a heart of gratitude because I knew the other side of the coin.
That's really nice. And you know, the greatest triumphs come from the greatest struggles. So I'm glad you had to probably go through that, and we are fortunate to have you here today.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm lucky to be here.
From your journey to being a lovely child, to being in corporate America, and then working in corporate America and call it a quit. Was it something that was brewing for a while, or was it just an impulsive decision?
You know, everything, I like what you said earlier, everything stems back to your roots. And so growing up, there was a part of me that lived in what I call now the dreamer's world. So when I would go outside biking, when I'd be washing the dishes, whatever it was, I would catch my own thoughts. And I would catch this little girl within me dreaming and dreaming so big, like the sky was truly the limit. And so I feel like the system, the educational system, it teaches us to get a degree, right? So I double majored in psychology and sociology by the age of 20.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mother was like, no one's getting out of this household until you get an education. Because she's an educated woman. And so I really appreciate that because it taught me discipline. It taught me resilience.
Sure.
It taught me to complete projects, to be able to work within deadlines. But in a way, it put me in a system to go and then get a job. And so at the age of 21, I get hired as the youngest supervisor in our company. And I'm given a team of 15 people to manage.
Wow, that's so amazing.
Where a lot of them are perhaps double my age. And I'm learning how to manage a team. And so I caught myself in really needing guidance and direction to gain respect from people who are much older than I am. And it taught me to grow up and to grow up quickly. But I also, after 3 years of working that role, found myself feeling constrained within limits of a building. And then catching myself, what was it like when I was a dreamer?
Yeah.
A little girl who had big dreams and big goals.
You forget that so quickly.
You forget it so quickly. I like what you just said. And I began to kind of feel that pressure. And I said, you know what? Something is off. And I knew something was off because I was diagnosed with a hormonal imbalance while I had this American dream job. And I knew I needed to get out.
You were in your early 20s.
And I was in my early 20s. And I knew I needed to get out, but I couldn't do it impulsively while the rest of the world was applauding me for a job well
You
done.
were accomplishing a lot of things at one time, but emotionally, you felt unstable because of the syndrome that you had developed in your body.
Exactly. And so there's a big disconnect. And I was coming home, sitting in my car, unable to physically get out of my car for 10 to 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I was literally in my early 20s. And I knew something is off. And so I began to look for answers. And in my downtime, I would research a lot about this diagnosis and what it embodied. And I began to look for ways to heal myself from the inside out.
Would you like to share what this is called?
Yes, it's called PCOS.
I've heard so many women right now suffering from that.
1 in 10 women are diagnosed with it. And I think up to today, it might be even more. It might be 1 in 8. So it's a hormonal imbalance. And the best way I can describe it in simple terms is your body, physical body is here. Your emotions are here and your hormones are here. You're very much disconnected from yourself.
Being a woman, going through those challenges. I mean, I suffered from hypothyroidism since I was 22 years old. And I was very lean woman, and I was a very lean girl while growing up. I was into sports. So having that weight gain came with its own package. Weight gain is a package in itself. And then you have this mental package that you're going through, which is you do not understand 20 years back. What you're going through is the emotional trauma, or, now we have so many different terms for that. But I could not even express that to my parents, that I am feeling different, like I'm feeling big, and I've never felt that before. And, yeah, you take medicines, but it's the little things that really affect you emotionally.
It is. It is. And, I'm going to jump forward just a couple segments,
Yeah.
but I truly believe that femininity in business, being the founder, producing those two events so far is the biggest miracle. Because I know of days when I actually felt the apt opposite. I felt very masculine. I was very much out of tune with my emotion and my thoughts and my feelings, and I would suppress it all to just get through the day, to make the money, and to do what the world defined as accomplishment. And so there came a moment by the age of 25 where I had to say enough is enough. And I'm very, very fortunate for the experiences I got to undergo and experience the last 5 years of my life. So I'm 30 now, and I went on a vacation, a much needed vacation, to the Big Island in Hawaii. And I just remember being in paradise and feeling so in tune with just the beauty of life, with the tropics, with the sound of ocean, with eating tacos, having mahi-mahi, and just swimming in sea salt water. And like literally hearing the birds chirping and seeing their native flowers and being so drawn into the beauty of nature.
Lovely.
And I truly believe that was a God moment.
Oh, that's the wisest thing you can do.
Absolutely. At the age of 25, not knowing what the future held, I bought a one-way ticket. I left to Hawaii, and I ended up being there for 3 months. And so this dream of just getting 1 month turned into 3 months. And then I returned back to mainland. And by then I ghost wrote. So I wrote a book draft for someone else. And I came back and I let 2 editors go through it, edit it. It was a big process. It was like a 6-month total, very compressed book project that I oversaw. And then I did the manuscript and I self-published it for someone else.
Wow.
And so that was very challenging, stressful, but that was probably one of the first things I did that stretched me to that idea of the sky is the limit.
What an experience and what a journey. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go back to segment 1. It's fascinating to know how your multicultural background shaped your perspective. You started training and guiding young girls and women and empowering them. How did this idea erupt that you wanted to be part of something this special?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that question. It's something I don't talk a lot about today, but it's who I am because of the days I mentored the young girls. So I think at around age 14, I caught myself thinking, I want to become everything I wish I had.
I like that.
I feel like in our culture, a lot of people have big families, and girls are missing that big sister, that mentor in their life.
They are.
And so by the age of 18, I was given this opportunity to just mentor young girls within my community. And in a way, I kind of let all my dreams die. And I literally, in the best way possible to put it, I put my own life at such a young age still, age 18, for the life of others.
How beautiful is that?
And so every single week I would meet with these like 30 to 40 girls.
That's a lot of girls.
It was a lot of girls. I wanted to rip my hair out. because these girls are like 13,
Oh
14.
my God.
They all
The
have their own
typical teenage-
hormones. Their
parents
puberty
don't want
stage.
them at that time in the house.
And then by the age of, like in my 20s, we began to develop this thing called core girls with a K, Kore, because the word core means something very unique in the Greek language. I'm not even going to go into those details, but it was a very iconic thing that we developed. And I just became a leader of young girls. And I remember some of these girls were like, I'm done, I want my life to be over.
Oh
And
my
they're young,
God.
they're teenagers.
Wow.
And so I would not let them entertain suicidal thoughts. And I'm really thankful because I don't even yet fully think I know, even upon today, the impact I had on their lives. Because when you're going through it, you're very much in a survival mode.
Yeah.
And I became a mentor that was able to pull them out of kind of like a mental dump, a place of over-exhaustion,
Wow.
a place where they were misunderstood, overlooked, not fully heard of, not completely loved.
This is very important.
It's very important. And so mental health, I think, is very important in today's world. And it's something I'm still learning because I don't think I was fully understood. And I was very much overlooked growing up too.
That is so beautiful, Kristina. Thank you for doing that. A good leader offers so much confidence in others, but a good leader is one who actually offers trust first. And you have done that with the core girls. And I don't think anybody who is watching you today will not be inspired. I am.
Oh my gosh.
Kristina, that was so impressive. Can you share a moment or when that passion for being an entrepreneur ignited?
I think it definitely ignited when I published that first book as a ghostwriter. And I realized how much I loved having the freedom of having like a space to create and not being kind of told what to do and how to do it, but allowing my own mind, right, to just create and produce. But I definitely saw the opportunity for entrepreneurship when I set out on a whim to compete in pageantry, right? So I love beauty, I love beautiful things, but I really honestly grew up as an athletic tomboy. So I loved sports more than anything, and I just wanted to be outside and get down and dirty. But after I competed, there was an opportunity to support someone else in pageantry. And I had this, just she would approach me and say, hey, I'm going on this trip. I'd love for you to just create content for me and be there to support, to assist. And being able to travel and doing that showed me the life of an entrepreneur. Like you get to set your own schedule, you get to produce work, you get to create from a place of like fulfillment, not from a place I have to. And that kind of inspired me to coach people. So I started to offer coaching services for a certain period of my time. And I was like, I love this. I love to be the boss of my own life, to be the CEO and to just create and not being micromanaged by someone else.
What advice do you have for women who might be hesitant at this moment to take the risk, take the chance, and leave their very comfortable corporate job? And it could be just a change in career, or it could be fly high a little more and be that entrepreneur.
Oh, I love that. So have a game plan, right? If you want to leave corporate America or just a job to start your own thing, like have things in place. Like be aware of your finances.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Right?
Yes.
Budget. Be smart. Cut off Starbucks runs. Say no to hangouts, right? Like going out on the weekends. Let that be an occasional thing, something that's very luxurious, not just your everyday, every weekend norm.
And this is not a setback. This is an opportunity for you to grow.
Exactly. It's not you're not going to lose out on anything.
No.
Like, reality is you're not going to make it to every single party in your lifetime. And you don't want to, because it's exhausting and it depletes your energy. And I'm so, so lucky that I just had that understanding within me to develop myself, to evolve, to take risks,
Absolutely.
to literally have 61 cents in your bank account and be like, how the heck am I going to figure out my life from here?
Wow.
And just to kind of like explore my options and become the woman that I am, and to not have all the answers to my questions and throw myself into things and be like, I'm just going to swim through this and figure it out. And I think that's the beauty. And the voice within you is the loudest voice that you hear and you listen every single
so
day.
Beautiful.
And so when you're able,
Absolutely.
and when you have that game plan, your dream is no longer a dream, because you're actually taking forward steps. And even if you're failing, right, so to speak, you're always failing forward, and you're always one step closer to letting it become a reality.
So true.
And letting that dream become the very thing that now brings you income, brings you money, and allows you to live the dream and the lifestyle that you've always wanted.
Absolutely. And I think I'd like to end the segment by saying, create a life you do not need to escape from. Create a life that's worth living, and you like to live that every single day.
I love that.
Kristina, I read that while you were on Instagram in 2019, you scrolled through the then Miss USA Chelsea Christ, and immediately you landed up applying for the pageant, and that was a big chapter of your life. Was it an emotional connection?
Oh, I love this question. So pageantry definitely was a very pivotal moment in my life. And it was right after I ghost wrote and released the book for someone else. And we did this huge book launch in North Carolina. And I came back with this game plan that I'm going to move to California for an opportunity. And that completely failed through. And so for a few months, I was kind of just stuck. I didn't know what to do with my life. And it was just very momentum every single day. There was really nothing exciting happening. And yeah, like you said, I was just scrolling through and I see Chelsea Christ win Miss USA of 2019. And I was like really drawn to her, even through the screen. And I began to kind of look into her heritage, her background. You know, she was a lawyer, an attorney, just really sharp, beautiful, and captivating. And the funny thing is, we grew up when we first came to America, like hovered around this little TV screen watching Miss Universe every single year.
I used to love watching that too.
It must be like an immigrant thing. I don't know. You're just like captivated by these beautiful women on a screen. And so it kind of, took me back into my childhood. And so me and my oldest sister were watching Miss USA again. And at the end, I was like, isn't she just so remarkable? I'm truly captivated by her. And she looks at me and she's like, absolutely anybody can do this. I was like, yeah, I know. She's like, I see you doing it.
Aww.
And this was my reaction. Me, never. And I leave her house. And I'm driving back. And this whole drive, I'm like, why don't you do it? And so it's that risk taker, dreamer, I love a good challenge within me that was like, why would you do it? So I drove out, I literally roll up to my driveway. I'm sitting on my phone. And in less than 5 minutes, I do this application for Miss Washington USA. And in less than 24 hours, I'm on the phone with the director of pageantry who is literally running me through the whole thing of what to expect.
Wow.
Because I'm brand new. I have absolutely no idea what this industry is all about.
It's challenging.
Oh my gosh, it is a whole...
It looks very pretty, but I know it has its own share of challenges.
Absolutely. And she asks me at the end of this like maybe 20-minute conversation, do you still want to do it? Laying down the reality of pageantry. My head is like, no. And this is what I say, Yes, absolutely. And at that moment, I knew there was no going back. I gave my word. I do my first competition. I make it to semifinalists, completely clueless
Wow.
of what I'm doing.
That's an achievement.
Thank you. And then the following year was COVID, so it pushes it out to March of 2021.
Oh.
Right? Because a lot of things were
Yes.
canceled and rescheduled. And so I competed my second time, and I made first runner-up.
Oh,
Which is second
congratulations.
place. Thank you. I just lost by a sneeze. And I was onto something.
Absolutely.
And that was just the beginning of everything that followed through afterwards.
That was so impressive, Kristina. This is beautiful, and your journey is sparkling. You know, you're like a diamond.
I
We
like
had to
that.
find you to get here.
Diamonds are
Rare.
always under a rock. You gotta chip away at the rock before you get down to the diamonds. So yeah, no, definitely. I mean, sometimes I remember I would even write this down. When you feel like the world is on your shoulders, remember that each diamond is hidden under a rock.
Oh,
Because
that
the
is so nice.
pressures of life, they feel like a rock on top of a diamond.
Kristina, I'm going to go back to our segment one because I'm always very intrigued, myself being an immigrant. And, you know, we all are born different, we all are raised differently. And I thought of asking you about a question, which is, are you apologetic about how you were raised, or you're unapologetic of how you are right now?
You know, I'm gonna be very brutally honest. I remember there was a moment where I was very angry. And I was angry that I was raised within bounds of a culture. I was frustrated that I was taught to be a certain way, which was very limiting. And now I've realized that that adversity, the very thing that kind of seemed like a setback, has become my greatest weapon. And I think it was only at age 27 when I began to really step into my most truest, authentic self. I was kind of told most of my life that I had to act a certain way, talk a certain way, dress a certain way, be a certain way. And so when I stepped into pageantry after my first competition, when people asked me what was it like, the only way I could ever phrase it was, I feel like a bird out of her cage, because I was given a pair of wings to fly. I began to find flavor and meaning in life because I actually went so inward into myself that I began to realize there's a side of me that hasn't been yet developed. And I am ecstatic to figure out who she is. And so one of my best friends now really identified this rebranding of Kristina, which is now known as KK. She said there's this joy and energy about you that
There is.
so magnetic. You draw people in simply by being who you are. And I've realized there's a part of me, and I realized there's a space and a spot for my story to be heard.
Absolutely.
And I think that being unapologetically you is being authentic to who you are. And what that means is not being shy or embarrassed by what has happened to you, but let that be your driving force, and let that give you a pair of wings to fly. Because there's enough space in the sky for each single bird to fly. And the
That
birds
is
that
beautiful.
decide, I'm kind of inspired by the butterflies I see on the wall over there. But truly, if you think about it, and so I love to hear other people's stories. And the moment they kind of shy away or they don't want to share, that's exactly what I want to pull from. Because I know
there is
that
a story
once
behind that.
someone pulled on my story, and now I want to be that host that pulls that story from every single woman and allow their voice to be heard and allow them to have a platform where they can take up space and not ever be embarrassed for it.
Wow, your thoughts, your thought process is so mesmerizing, Christina. And I'm still thinking about the fact that you mentioned the sky is so big. There is enough space for every bird to fly. This is going to stick with me for a very long. We always have this world where we are competing against one another, and good competition is great. But the time we start demeaning others and being, fretful about somebody's progress and growth, I think we forget that the sky is big and there is enough space for every bird to fly.
I absolutely love that.
Christina, we are at the last segment of our show. And I always say this is very exciting, emotional, fun segment. It's called the burning questions. And my first question is, tell us a secret nobody knows about you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely a personal one. I'm only going to share it because I think the time is right, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of, especially young women watching. I have never, I guess you can say, officially had a boyfriend.
No kidding.
I'm dead ass serious.
Any men watching here would not believe that because they want to grab you right now.
This is why I
You're
don't share
beautiful.
it. This is why I don't share it. So, I kind of grew up in two different worlds. And so, luckily, my parents really wanted me to get an education. So, the focal point of the household was everything that had to do with education. There was no time or room, right, for a boyfriend. And so by the age of 20, I finished my bachelor's. I start this job, right? I'm navigating this new stage of my life. There was no time for a boyfriend. I was working hard. And then shortly after that, I get diagnosed. And I could become so out of tune with femininity and with my body. I was more of in a place of survival of, I just want my body to be back to its norm. Like, what kind of man is going to want me? So I think there was a level of certain fear that I carried that I needed to overcome. And then, then I was like, okay, we're healing. I'm age 25. I'm living in Hawaii. Now, mind you, like I did get attention. It's not like I lived I didn't live under a rock. I got attention, but I was always so focused on my next mission and stage of life. I just never made room for that area. And I actually am very grateful for this reason. It would have messed me up. And let me tell you why. I didn't know who I was. I only started to truly discover myself, like truly do personal development, begin very intentional spiritual growth at about age 27. If I had a boyfriend in the mix, I would have been distracted. I would have probably done things I would have later on regretted. But the reason why I get to be a woman of value and to maybe I can humbly say power is because the only relationship I fully entertained was the relationship between me and God. It was always vertical, not horizontal. And so in the last few years, finally putting myself out there, kind of I guess you can say being on the market, I've had a lot of great dates and experiences. But I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table, but I also know what I want in return.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of power in that. And so I think many times women feel like they need a significant other to be significant. And I want to break that status quo and say you can be a woman of power and of value without having a significant other by your side. Now, I do have a dream of being married, of being a wife, and being a mom. And I know it's going to happen in my 30s.
It will.
But I get to bring the best version of myself into that stage of my life without having prior experiences that I needed to perhaps heal from, or overcome the idea of I regret doing this, because I don't really have that in my, stored memories.
Yeah, I'm coming to your wedding because I cannot miss this gorgeous bride. So don't forget to invite me, or you will have some uninvited people at your wedding.
I feel like I'm gonna need to have like a link, like a live stream link, and be like, due
No.
to overcapacity, you are virtually invited to my wedding day.
I'll be the chef hat and I'll be there. So I need to watch you in person.
I'll let you have like a podcast where you're like you're like
Going live.
You're like going live of like, I am hosting KK's wedding guests.
Yes.
As
I
they
love
walk
that idea.
in.
That's viral.
Go,
You
that's
guys
it.
have to stay tuned for
You're
that.
in. You just got yourself into a job.
Well, that was really nice, and I really appreciate you sharing that. But I wanted to get a little more idea about your personal life. Was there any point in your life where you felt you just want to give up on your career, give up on your dreams, give up on the hope?
Absolutely. And more times than I can count.
How did you counteract against that?
I hope I don't cry, but I remember very, very clearly multiple moments where I would lean against a wall on the ground in my room or in my bathroom and releasing tears and literally saying, I just can't do it anymore. Like, it was, I vividly remember moments where it was really hard. It was going against the status quo of the culture that was difficult. It was in the moments of, I just don't even freaking know what I'm doing. Like, as an entrepreneur, most of the time you literally you feel like you're just throwing darts into the dark and just hoping that it lands.
It gets so lonely.
And it gets lonely. And the path of an entrepreneurship and becoming the best version of yourself, it's a lot more lonely than people think. Because people see these moments of highlights when you're maybe traveling or you're on this podcast or you're getting this moment of spotlight, but they don't see the day-to-day.
No.
And so those were the moments that were absolutely pivotal and vital. And so in the beginning, they were difficult and I would cry through them. But there became a moment where I began to lean into my faith. I began to lean into God. And I literally cried out to an unseen God. And I said, if you don't come through right now, I'm not going to make it in life. Because there were moments where it's not that I just felt uncertain. I felt hopeless and definitely felt depressed. And I needed him more than anything else. I had nobody else to run to. He was my only source. He was the only thing that I had in my corner. And I did have people, but you cannot put the responsibility of that kind of weight on people when they have their own lives to run and live out.
Yeah. Wow, that's pivotal. And that's a moment that you shared with us, and it really touched me a lot. Coming back to the last question, and I know we are ending on a little softer note than a higher happy note, but I thought this is important. And I'm going to read this out. The Census Bureau's Household Pulse survey finds that half, which is 50% of adults aged 18 to 24, reported anxiety and depression symptoms in 2023, as we are living right now in 2023.
Wow.
I know you've gone through a lot of ups and downs. I want you to give your strongest advice, your strongest positive emotion, because I know you believe in faith and you believe in that God. Tell this person who's watching you today how to get out of it.
Can I look at the camera for this one? I think for the viewer watching, I want to say this too shall pass. Don't make lifelong, eternal decisions on a temporary problem.
I like that. That is true.
Because a lot of times, especially as females, we're very emotionally wired. And in a world of social media, billboards, magazines, Netflix, television, we are given an opportunity to make decisions that make us feel good. But what if you don't feel good right now and you decide to make a life-altering decision? That's not only going to impact you, that's going to impact the people around you and the ones that love you. And the world needs you. The world needs us. If I decided to, for example, take my life away in the season when I was on my lowest low and I was depressed, I would never be sitting here today as a woman of impact, value, and influence. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. hours, where I would stay up and I would be running on just a few hours of sleep, but I would stay up in those dark night hours, literally on my knees when the whole world was asleep, or maybe drunk, or maybe, I don't know, having sex. I don't know. What do people do? People do pleasurable things. And I would just be crying out to God. And I remember a lot of those nights. And it brought me to where I am today. And He gave me promises. He allowed Himself to become very real. And what I love about God is that He is an experiential God. And I love experiences. Give me all the afternoon teas. Let me travel the world. I love pleasure. But when I get to be with God, He's beyond that.
Right.
He always exceeds my expectations. He is beyond my wildest imaginations. And He fully satisfies and fulfills. And so because you're giving me an opportunity to speak from what is my driving force today, I'm going to have to say it is God. It is my relationship with Jesus Christ. And I will always give Him the highest praise and glory because I am who I am today because of Him. He's more real now than He's ever been before. And I want to die as a woman of faith one day.
No. I'm overwhelming with emotions, and I think you ended on such a gorgeous note, and means a lot for you to come to my show and make your presence so gorgeous and beautiful and lively and emotional. So we had a turmoil of events in this little time, but I'm so grateful for you to come here, and we all visualize something amazing for this episode.
Thank you for having me, Nia. I am so excited for the future of this podcast, and I can't wait till you're going to have millions and millions of viewers.
Thank you.
It's going to be all worth it.
Thank you. As we wrap this empowering episode, let us remember that in a world filled with incredible women striving towards greatness, there is no limit to a determined, focused mind can achieve. Let's become architects of our own success stories and be a woman in the making.